If I can have your attention here in the Jim Hunter Media Center, we'll go ahead and start today's media availabilities, and we'll start it off with Kyle Larson, driver of the number 42 Clover Chevrolet for Chip Ganassi Racing. If you have a question for Kyle, please raise your hand. We will get a wireless microphone to you. Questions for Kyle Larson. We'll start with Jordan, and then we'll work our way around. Get a microphone over here to Jordan, please.
Athletic. Looking ahead to next week, there's always discussion about Indianapolis and NASCAR going there, and whether Indy deserves a NASCAR date. What are your thoughts on Indianapolis, its place on the schedule, and its whether it has still relevancy in NASCAR?
I don't know. I mean, as long as I've been alive, they've been going there. So I think around it. So for me, yeah, I think we should be racing there. Obviously the racing's not the most exciting there, but it's still an historical place that I always enjoy going to and getting to be in the garage area, and going around the same racetrack as some legends have. So I don't really know how else to answer that other than I think it deserves to be on the schedule.
Go over here to your right to Ben.
Ben White with the Lexington Dispatch newspaper. When you talk about or look at Darlington prior to coming to Darlington, then when you get on the racetrack, what kind of track is it for you personally? Do you love driving here? Have you got reservations about this track?
No, I this is one of my favorite tracks, probably in the top 3 of my favorites. So I enjoy coming here. This track, more than the rest of them. When you drive in this place, you really, I don't know, you feel like you're at a racetrack, and I just get that. I know it's throwback weekend, but even before all that, I always got that vibe that this felt like a racetrack. It's got fairly small stands for how big this place is. The painted walls and the campgrounds and everything just feel like a grassroots kind of track. So, and then the surface is really wore out. The style of racing here is intense, so it just suits me, and I really enjoy it.
Go next to Scott.
Yes, Kyle, Scott Jansen for Florence 1 News. Do you think it's time in the near future, considering Darlington's big crowds in recent years, that Darlington is worthy of a second race again in a season?
Honestly, I believe we should only go to tracks one time. So I feel like if you added an event here, you probably risk the potential of not having sellout crowds, because you can go to either one. So yeah, I mean, there's obviously racetracks where I love racing at that I wish I could race there more than once, but I think for the growth of the sport and attendance and all that, I feel like we should only race in a market once, kind of. Go to more places, go to more tracks, but once.
Okay. Casey Hens, WPD in Myrtle Beach. You kind of had a change from July to kind of late July, early August in your races, and you did well here last year. You've always finished, I think, top 5 and above in the stages here. So what about this track, and at this time of year, when you kind of really start to hit your stride?
Yeah, I just think these tracks that are wore out, old surface, our team just got a good setup for those places. You look at Atlanta, I led the most laps there. Chicago, we almost won. We led a ton of laps here last year. Always good at Homestead. So just something about these kind of I don't even know if this is a mile and a half, but intermediate tracks that suit us. And it's just unique. You run close to the wall, so I'm obviously comfortable with that. So I just get excited about this place and look forward to it.
Go next to Jacob.
Jacob Seelman, Speed Sport. Kyle, I've got a follow-up, but what are the challenges, if any, of running double duty next week with adding the midget to Brickyard 400 week?
I don't know. There's no challenges really, because it's let's see, we race Wednesday and Thursday. We're not even on track until Saturday, I don't think, in the Cup car. So it's not gonna feel like double duty to me. You know, I got a busy week coming up. You know, I'll race the go-kart out in California Monday and Tuesday, then the midget Wednesday, Thursday, and then on track Saturday and Sunday with the Cup car. But it won't feel like triple duty, I think, or whatever you want to call it. But having the day off will be nice, and you not being in multiple cars on the same day will be relaxing. So I enjoy double duty. I haven't gotten to do any double duty NASCAR stuff this year. I did double duty on my off week at Placerville with the midget and the sprint car, and that was fun but hectic, just because it's all happening in a few hours. But next week will be fun and not too crazy.
I know you mentioned the showcase, and that was kind of what kept you from the BC39 last year. What did you adjust to make it all work this year, and what would it mean to win the midget race Thursday night?
I didn't adjust anything. Last year I was just worried about getting done late at Chico, and then trying to catch a 5:30 a.m. or 6 a.m. flight to Indy, and just, you land. I think I land at like 3:40 p.m. on Wednesday. So, if there's any hiccup, in flight delays or anything like that, that's where I could risk missing the race. But so yeah, last year I went to Oregon and raced the sprint car, but this year, last year I saw how cool the event was, so I didn't want to miss it or do everything I could to get there. So yeah, we're just gonna do it, and if I have a flight delay, oh well.
Dustin
Long, NBC Sports. Kyle, as a part of a generation that saw Jimmie Johnson dominate the sport and win 5 consecutive championships, and 48 team not being able to do anything wrong for a number of years, to see the struggles that admittedly a lot of athletes go through toward the end of their career, even in this sport, with struggling to win and fighting for a playoff spot. What is that like for somebody of your generation to see somebody growing up and seeing him win on TV all the time, and seeing where he's fighting to make the playoffs with 2 races to go?
Yeah, it is. It's weird to see. When you're watching somebody like that dominate. You never expect to see them in this position and being winless for as long as he's been, and now risk of not making the playoffs and having a chance to win the championship. So obviously I'm a huge Jimmie Johnson fan. I want to see him either run well these next 2 races to get himself in a better points position or win. I'd like to see him just win, honestly, just to shut everybody up, I guess. But yeah, it is crazy. It's crazy, and I think it just shows how tough our sport gets, how tough our drivers are, how close the equipment is, and honestly, maybe how good of a combination him and Chad really were. So yeah, hopefully they can figure out and get some mojo going, and finish up front where he belongs.
And I know you're far away from, whenever you'd have to make a decision on what you're going to do with your career. But, obviously, toward the end of Jeff Gordon's career, it was more challenging to win. Tony Stewart's career, more challenging to win at this level. Jimmie's going through that. When you see even the greats of the sport go through that and know that over time eventually wins out, and I know you're far away from that point, but what does that make you think about, or what do you have to consider in knowing that at some point that's probably going to be your future or something you have to think about?
Yeah, you see it all the time. You look at Steve Kinzer, the greatest sprint car racer ever, and to watch him go through his struggles the last few seasons was honestly sad. So yeah, it's hard to predict, and probably hard to convince yourself that maybe it's time to retire whenever it is that time. But hopefully a long time from now, whenever I have those thoughts in my head, I choose the right time to where I'm still competitive. I would like to retire when I'm still competitive. That way you don't go through those down moments, I guess. But I think it's just hard for anybody to figure out when that time is, and rather than have other people convince you, I think you want to do it on your own terms too. So, drivers our egos are big too. So, we always believe that we can win. So it doesn't matter how old you get, or even after a string of 100 bad races, you still think you can go out there and win. So I think that's also probably makes it tough for some people to know when the time is right.
We'll go to your left, the hill.
Kyle, Hill Overton, WIXC Radio, Monroe, North Carolina. You drove a dynamite race here last year. I thought you were going to win that thing. You looked so strong most of the evening. I know it didn't quite work out for the W, but looking back at it, what could you do differently that you might have learned from last year to close it out and get the W if you ran that way tonight? Sunday night.
We had the best car all race long last year, and Kozlowski's team just did a little bit better job than us on pit road that final stop, and beat me off pit road by a foot or whatever it was, and with not a lot of laps left, which I was really good on the long run. We didn't have many laps for me to get anything going. So I don't really know. I don't think there was anything I could have done differently there at that point. I felt like I ran a really good race. Took care of my stuff, kept out of the wall. We had a car capable of winning. And honestly, we didn't really have a bad pit stop that time. Kozlowski's team was just really good.
So that was the difference, just getting out a little bit later.
Yeah, he was able to control the restart and control the last little run.
We'll come down front, then we'll go to
Hey,
Lee.
Kyle McFadden from Motorsports Dig Podcast. How much growth have you seen from Carson Macedo since he came into your
What's that?
sprint car program?
Growth?
Yes. He picked up his third win of the season last weekend. Yeah.
I've been extremely happy with Carson and the team. They've been doing a good job. He's done honestly better than what I thought he would do as a rookie on the Outlaw Tour. Winning a few times on the road at a lot of these places that he's never been to before is really cool. There's still a lot of racing left too, so hopefully he can get himself a few more and try and I don't really know how the points look. I know he's close. I think Shane Stewart's close behind him, but hopefully he can at least stay where he's at.
We'll go next to Lee.
Lee Spencer, RacingBoys.com. I got another one along those same lines. Talked to Jeff Gordon about David Gravel, and you saw the kind of support he gave him during Knoxville. Asked him, what he thought that level would go to, and he said at his age, it's probably too late for him to do anything along the lines of what you're doing, but he could foresee him getting into a truck. How do you think he would transition if he was trying to go from World of Outlaws to stock cars, given the fact that, he and Priest and Logano all grew up together?
I thought what Jeff and David were able to put together for Knoxville was awesome. I hope that can grow into something because that's good for the sport. But then, I hate to hear Jeff say that he's too old to make it because obviously he's got the talent. There's not a lot of people that won the Knoxville Nationals and won as many outlaw races he has at he's the same age as me. So I feel like if you're good, you should get the chance to race, and he's got more talent and deserves a better opportunity than just the truck series alone. So I hope it can grow to that where he can get at least some starts in a truck, and you never know what can happen if he goes out there and starts winning races. Like I know he would. And two, honestly, I think he would do better in a Cup car or Xfinity car, than a truck. A truck's way different than what a sprint car feels like. Xfinity or Cup's a little more, closer to it because you're sliding around and you got more horsepower and things like that. So, I don't know. Jeff's got big dollars, so maybe he could invest. And we talked about Jimmie, retiring or something, in the future. Maybe Gravel would be the guy.
Can you imagine though making the transition at your age? I mean, you did it, gosh, 8 years ago. You were already on that path. Can you imagine trying to make that transition at your age now compared to then?
I think it'd be easier. I think it'd be easier to make the transition because he's got more experience now than what we would have when we were 18 years old. So I think the transition would go smoother, and I think owners need to look at that rather than just always thinking that you're the next teenager.
Additional questions for Kyle? Well, Kyle, thanks for joining us. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.